The 0-1 pitch, swung on, grounded off of the pitcher Hall. It's going to bounce over to third base, and there will be no play. Burnett barehands it. He wanted to make a throw to first base, but Arroyo was already there. So Abner Arroyo with a leadoff single. Arroyo being held at first. He takes off on the pitch. Daubert hit the line drive to center field. Hopper's retreating, and it's over his head. It's going to hit off of the wall in center field. Arroyo hits third base and puts on the brakes. Daubert is in with a stand-up double, and the Rox have runners at second and third. Jake Daubert, now the owner of an 18-game hitting streak. 3-1 offering to Bustos, misses up high, and he draws a base on balls. The sacks are full of rocks. Another 1-2 pitch. Swung on, fly ball down the right field line. Could be trouble for Forbes. It's going to drop in for an extra base hit. Arroyo will score easily. Daubert hustling home. The throw to second base, not in time to get Blakely. And Bustos holds at third base. The Rox have taken a 2-0 lead on a double by Darren Blakely, who is batting .320, 4 homers, 48 runs batted in. First pitch to the right-hander, lined up the middle, base hit. Bustos will score. Blakely being waved home, and the ball gets past the center fielder Hopper. That will allow Lewis to race around second base, and he will arrive at third base standing. It is 4-0 Rox. Matos hitting .331, a home run, 12 runs batted in. Base hit right field, and that drops in front of Forbes. Lewis scores standing. Matos has a single and a run batted in. 5-0 Rox, still no outs. Mike Torres at the plate. He lines one up the middle for a base hit. The Rox have come out smoking. 5 runs on 6 hits. There are still no outs. The 0-1 pitch to Brown. Another line drive into center field for a base hit. And Bobby Brown keeps the hits coming. There's a 1-0 pitch. Misses everything but the backstop. That will allow Matos to score from third base. And it is now 6-0. That pitch to Landry. Misses outside, and he draws a base on balls. And that is it for Courtney Hall. One time through the lineup, and he was not able to retire anybody. Fly ball deep to right field. Forbes going back to the warning track, to the wall, and it's off of the wall. Torres will score. Brown is coming home now. Here comes the throw to the plate, and Brown slides in safely. It is 8-0. Swung on line drive, base hit right field. Arroyo rounding third, headed for home. Here comes the throw to the plate. It is not in time. A 2-run single for Jake Daubert. It is 10-0. Maybe the Rox can look into whether they can apply some of these hits to their next game.
So they finished the regular season with a bang. But as it turned out, the Rox could have indeed used some of those hits and then some in their next game as they opened the playoffs in New Jersey. We had an off day after the final game in Berkshire, and unfortunately, before I could let Josh Mauer know about the incident on the bus, I learned that he had walked into the clubhouse to get some interviews for his pregame show. And as he walked in, Coach Chris Miyake had said, "Ooh, you're really in for it." And Francisco Matos had yelled out loudly, "Oh, is that the guy?" And Mike Davis had yelled, "Yeah, that's him. Don't give him any interviews." Poor Josh was a young guy. He had no idea what was even going on. But to his credit, he acted professionally, came back with interviews with Darren Blakely and Mike Marcasano, and I appreciated both of those guys doing that. I tried to lighten Josh's mood by joking around that it was no big deal since Davis would likely be riding the bench and Matos had the personality of a bench, but I could tell that he was still rattled. But you know, it might have been one of those tough life lessons that we all learn preparing us for professional life. I remember when I was hired by a radio station in Tampa to cover the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The first day I went out to Bucs camp, I tried to interview the team's starting quarterback, Vinny Testaverde, and he just glared at me and refused to talk to me. I was like, what the heck did I do? Well, no one had bothered telling me that he was angry at my radio station because one of my new coworkers had offended him with an on-air joke. He was kind of sensitive. I smoothed things out after a few weeks, but there was an uncomfortable situation. That's the kind of crap that you deal with, right? You know, in this situation, though, it wasn't a local radio, TV, or newspaper reporter that Davis and Matos were boycotting. It was a Rox intern, an employee. So the next day on the bus, I did voice my displeasure to Miyake. Now, I spent a lot of time with Chris during my stint with the Rox, and I consider him to be a fantastic guy, a good friend, and one of the nicest people that I have ever met, inside baseball or out. But that was one time that we disagreed, and he got a bit defensive about it. His rationale was it was good motivation for the players. I said if that's where they have to find their motivation at an innocent person's expense, that was that was pretty sad. Well, Chris was in his first year of management, and I think that he was just thinking more as a player at that point in his career than he was as a coach. So we made the drive to Little Falls, New Jersey, just to be rained out. They were late getting the tarp down and put it over a wet surface, so when they removed it the next day, surprise, it was still wet.
They did work on this field quite a bit prior to the start of this ball game, but it was very, very ugly when they started working on it. They used the old technique of throwing down some gasoline on the base paths and lighting it to try to dry things off, and then they actually brought in a helicopter to come in and hover over the field to dry it off, sparing no expense tonight to try to get this done. And I tell you, there was one of the most memorable scenes, and I was glad I was able to snap off a picture of it because I'm going to be able to take this picture and get a good laugh now whenever I see it. Everybody had cleared off the field as you would expect when the helicopter arrived, except for one person. Ed Noddle just walked right out onto the field towards the Rox dugout, not only walking out on the field where there's a helicopter out there, but walking out with cigarette in hand after the field had been doused with gasoline. Only Ed. Only Ed. He lived to tell the tale.
The Rox had finished the second half of the season in second place in the North Division, just 2 games behind Quebec and a game ahead of North Shore. But their 27-19 record in the second half was actually better than that of New Jersey, which had finished 5 games ahead of Berkshire and Elmira despite a modest record of 24-20. But the Jackals had wound up with the best overall season record in the Northeast League at 52-37, thanks to its dominating first-half performance. The overall records of the 4 playoff teams were very close, but the Rox were well aware they would need to be at full strength to defeat a powerful New Jersey team. Unfortunately, they would not be at full strength. Prior to the game, outfielder Nestor Smith, arguably the team's best all-around player, came up with an injury. No, not a groin pull. It was a very bad nosebleed. The Rox, who had managed incredibly to go the entire season without hiring a trainer to travel on the road, did not have anyone to attend to Nestor's nose, and the Jackals trainer seemed unwilling and said Nestor should go see a doctor. You know, having been around boxing for years, I have to wonder if a Q-tip up each nostril, you pinch the top of the nose and keep pressure on it for a minute, if that would have made a difference. But no, Nestor was taken to the emergency room, and he missed the entire game.
It's unfortunate that the injury to Nestor did not occur back in Brockton. You know, maybe they could have gone to Pitt Parent, the guy who was the cut man for Marvin Hagler for many years. Talking to him over at Joe Angelo's, had a little party for the team over there. Pitt Parent was there. He's been cheering on Ed Noddle and the Rox this season. We talked over some of his old boxing days, and he told about how he was able to treat a lot of cuts and close them up. And I'll bet you that Pitt would have had Nestor's nosebleed stopped in about 2 seconds. Greg Salvavold on the hill for the Rox. 2 wins, 3 losses as a member of the Rox this year. A 4.04 earned run average. He was a late arrival on this ball club, but a very important acquisition. He basically replaced Rodney Allen in this rotation. Here's the 1-1 pitch now to the left-hander. Swung on, fly ball, center field. Darren Blakely retreating, still going back, way back. It's over his head and all the way to the wall. Blakely comes up with it. Anderson will arrive at second base and hold there. John Anderson with a lead-off double. Kerrigan had a good finish to push his average up to .305 for the season. Left-handed batter, first pitch from Salvold, ground ball, second base, loved by Matos. He throws to first to retire Kerrigan. But moving over to third is Anderson. Now it is Darrell Brinkley. Brinkley, a powerful right-hander, late addition to this ball club from the Mexican League. Brinkley hit .405 in 9 games for the Jackals. He's been nursing an injury, was actually not in the lineup for the Jackals over about their last 6 games or so. And a leg injury, and he is not 100%. 1-1 pitch on the way. Swung on, ground ball right side, base hit for Brinkley. That will score Anderson, and the Jackals have taken a 1-0 lead. Another one of those late pickups from the Mexican League. Kevin Gryjak steps up to the plate now. The left-hander hit .408 for New Jersey in 18 games, a couple of homers, 18 runs batted in. Playoff baseball here on WBET. First game of this best-of-5 series between the Rox and Jackals. 1-2 pitch, ground ball right side again. Past the diving Matos into right field. Brown up with it quickly, and Brinkley puts on the brakes at second base. So Gryjak hits it just about the same spot that Brinkley hit the ball. A ground ball just out of the reach of Matos. Brings up Travis Bailey, a .290 hitter on the season, 12 home runs, 59 runs batted in. There's not a weak spot in this Jackals lineup. They hit .280 as a team. Not quite as impressive as the offensive attack was last season, but very good. Line drive right field, another base hit. Brinkley is moving very slow and just now arrives at third base, so the sacks are full of Jackals with 1 out. Travis Bailey with a single to load them up. Scott Samuels now, .422 hitter. Over his 17 games with the Jackals this season, he was the third member of that trio brought in from the Mexican League. Jackals were quick to jump on 3 very good hitters to add to their lineup. That was one of the reasons that they were able to unload Blakely. I mean, they had so much talent coming in that they were able to part with Darren Blakely, one of the best players in the league, hands down. 2-2 pitch on the way. That misses down low, and the count goes full. There is nowhere to put Samuels, so Salomon will have to challenge here. Long look in for the sign. Now the payoff pitch on the way from the right-hander. It misses down in the dirt, and he will walk in a run. It is 2-0 Jackals.
Salvo did bounce back to retire the next 7 batters, but then the Jackals sent him to the showers with a 3-run 4th inning. Up 5-0, New Jersey was in great shape with its ace, Joel Bennett, on the mound. Now, Bennett was a former Major League pitcher, 10 seasons in affiliated ball. He'd gone 14-2 with the Jackals the previous year, 8-1 with a 1.93 earned run average in 03, best pitcher in the Northeast League. Oh, and he hadn't given up more than 4 runs in a game all season.
Joel Bennett does not give you a whole lot of opportunities to hurt him. And right now, the Rox have one of these situations. Here in the 5th, the Rox mounting another charge. Torres at second, Rosario at first, and no outs. Abner Arroyo at the plate. How big is the loss of Nestor Smith looking right now? Nestor would have been the leadoff hitter, developed a nosebleed prior to game time, and was taken to the hospital. 0-2 pitch, breaking ball, catches the outside corner, and Arroyo has now struck out 3 times. Now the 2-2 offering a breaking ball, hit on the ground, third base, gloved cleanly by Kerrigan, throws to second for 1, relay to first is offline, and Brown is safe at first. Nice stop by Gryjak. Scored 5-4 on the force out. And Brown safe at first base, 2 outs now, and it's up to Jake Daubert. In the month of August, Daubert hit .400. 34 hits in 85 at-bats, trailing 5-0. They need to make something happen here on the payoff pitch from Bennett to Daubert. Swung on, a little flare out to left field. It is caught by the third baseman Kerrigan for out number 3.
The Rox were clobbered, 10-0, but only counted as 1 loss, and Brockton would send its ace Mike Marchesano to the hill for Game 2. But the Jackals were definitely in the driver's seat. Their large margin of victory had given them the luxury of taking Bennett out after only 6 innings, meaning he would be well rested for Game 5. The Rox now had to hope they could avoid a Game 5, which would mean winning 3 consecutive games. Be sure to click the subscribe button to follow my wild and wacky journey with the Brockton Rox, because more episodes are on the way. Thanks for watching.